Hey, yo. Check it.
Welcome back, hero.
My word is my sword, Hokage and Batosai, pulling the blades out of the forge, yo. Prior to my knowledge of the Force, was thinking Jedi, but through obtaining holocrons from both sides, I'm under gray skies. Everything that glitter ain't kyber crystal, my mind to lift you. In this time we shine together, disarm your pistol, yo. Welcome to the SwordCast. My wordplay, my swordplay when blades clash. Welcome to the SwordCast. My wordplay, my swordplay when blades clash. Welcome to the SwordCast.
Outside noise. It's a beautiful day. We've had a couple of beautiful days in a row now. Shout out to Mother Nature for blessing us with
our neighbors all of a sudden are playing their music like 5 times louder. And literally, as soon as I press record, they turn that bitch up to 1,000 immediately.
They probably did it on purpose.
I'm sure they did. So here, let me just say this off top. It's the holidays. I'm not trying to do a whole bunch of extra shit when it comes to editing this podcast, so I'm going to apologize in advance for audio qualities because I'm sure it's not going to be good. But I'm ready for it with the podcast to come. So,
hey, yeah, man. It's what holiday is it?
It's Memorial Day. Shout out to our veterans. Rest in peace to anybody who gave their life in the line of battle, on the field of battle.
Yeah, man. So if you got a grill, you know what I'm saying, it's a lovely day. Get out there, throw some food on the grill, man. Get some grilled chicken, some ribs. You know what I mean? Throw some good food on the grill and enjoy some family. Have a good day today. So this is episode 38. We are now treading dangerous waters of disgusting sports numbers that I'm not sure any athlete has ever worn. Before we started recording, we both kind of said that we know one. So in the event that it could possibly be the same exact person, I'm gonna count to 3, and we're gonna say the one athlete that we have that has been number 38. 1, 2, 3. Kwame
Brown.
I knew it.
Kwame Brown.
I knew it.
Garbage.
Trash.
There's also 2 years ago the Pistons had a G League player they paid on their team for like the last 10 games of the season, Reggie Hearn.
Oh my goodness, you are you have.
And I've watched every Pistons game for the past 10 years, literally every single one.
Yo, I kind of feel like Mikey Moore was number 38 at some point.
He was. He also played for the Teal Pistons.
Mikey Moore is a deep cut.
He is a deep cut, bro. He was super skinny and had weed head locks. That's what I remember about him.
the thick weed head locks. The thick boys, yeah, man. So yeah, bro, this is episode 38, and every time we're getting into the 30s and now approaching the 40s, the first thing on my mind is literally always, I can't believe that we've done a podcast episode for like almost 40 weeks straight.
Yeah, bro, so more than a year.
No.
I mean, almost a year. Almost a year. It'll be a year in August.
Right, man. So we are approaching the 40 ball. So yeah, man. What are you into currently? As always, right now, sir. With the weather being so beautiful as of late, what are you into currently, sir?
Yeah, man. What have I been into? I've been watching Avatar. I'm about 15 episodes in.
I can't wait until you finish this so we can do some Avatar top 5. As always, I always say that is my number 1 favorite show ever in the history of the world. I always rewatch it once a year. I haven't started watching it yet, but I'm definitely gonna I usually hit I told you I think last episode I usually hit my Avatar rewatch around the winter time. because it's always a good time to be in and watching something dope. But I'm probably going to hit it a little earlier since everybody is watching it right now. Since it's on Netflix, so I'll probably start watching it again.
No, man, it's been so long since I watched it the first time that it's basically like I'm watching it for the first time. Some of the arcs I remember, I'm at the point now where what just happened, where Aang is about to, I think I'm on episode, so he just, I'm on episode, I think I'm actually further, a little bit behind. I'm on episode like 9 or 10, where he goes into the spirit world, and he just met with Roku.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time. So I think that's episode like 12 or 13.
And Avatar Roku is such a really sweet character, man. He's one of my favorite characters in the show. Yeah, man, like you said, bro, when I remember being, Avatar came out when I was in about, I think I was maybe a 10th grader, maybe 11. Right. I was in high school, and I just remember they were building it up and they were making a big deal out of it. And obviously I had already been an anime fan, so I was looking at it like, yo, Nickelodeon's going to start showing anime on Nickelodeon, you know what I mean? And the show came out, and I mean, you know, it's not, I don't count it as an anime, you know, obviously because it's an American show, but it's so good, and I remember watching the first season completely in real time as it was airing, and I remember watching the second season completely in real time as it was airing. And then I didn't catch the third season. I went to college, and I remember they were going to make the movie, and the movie, God, it was terrible. But I do remember when the movie was coming out, and I was like, oh, you know what? I never finished the show, man. So I went and I got them all on DVD. Long time ago when I was in college, and I had watched the show all the way through, finished it, and it was amazing. And then the movie came out, and it was the only time in my entire life where I didn't finish watching the movie. I actually left in the middle of the movie because it just made me so mad. It was horrible. But yeah, man, if you guys haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, now is the time. It's on Netflix, man. You guys got to check it out.
Yeah, that's what I've been into. What about you?
So kind of on my rewatch of Rurouni Kenshin, my favorite old animes ever, and I just finished that. So I've just been really into that, man, and I've kind of binged the last couple of days so I can finish it up. I gotta tell you, man, that Kyoto arc in Rurouni Kenshin is so good. I'm always a big fan of that one arc that just kind of changes the tone of the entire show. The stakes get like super high, you know what I mean? Yeah, like most shows have that, you know what I mean? Like Kenshin is the Kyoto arc, Naruto it's the Sasuke retrieval arc, you know what I mean? And every show has it, but the Kyoto arc in Kenshin, man, is very, very good. One of the best ever in anime. And Shishio, such a good film, man.
Absolutely. Had a lot of intrigue, mystique behind him.
Yeah, super scary too, especially for like a young kid. When I was watching that, he scared the crap out of me, man. But so yeah, bro. Real quick on the wrestling on the wrestling stratosphere, me and you got together over the weekend and indulged in some junk foods, some pizza, some chicken wings. We're healthy guys. We deserve it. And we watched AEW Double or Nothing. The first AEW pay-per-view in this era of no fans at the showcase. How did you, what was your kind of thoughts on Double or Nothing?
I thought it was dope, man. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, man. It was the best of both worlds, where there was a lot of good wrestling. MJF Jungle Boy was a great match. MJF, we all knew Jungle Boy could go, but it's kind of dope seeing. I know MJF is a jerk, but it's dope seeing him show some wrestling chops as well. It's surprising. He cheated a little bit, but it was a relatively clean win against Jungle Boy.
I agree.
The ladder match was dope too. I was a little worried about Darby Allin. I looked like he broke his leg.
Man, Darby Allin is a bump machine. I tell you what, man, him and Sammy Guevara are the MVPs of like taking bumps in AEW. Both those guys, they're unbelievable. I love both of them.
Sammy Guevara is fantastic too. I love him.
Amazing.
There's a lot of great wrestlers on there, and also, bro, it was just a lot of like that last. That was a lot of fun, bro. That was like a lot. That's like the entertainment part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, man. I agree, man. I actually loved the show. My favorite match was definitely Jungle Boy versus MJF. Like you said, it's no secret that Jungle Boy can go. MJF being such a dirtbag heel, it is good to see that he can get down in the ring, man, and I think that's super important for him because now, to a fan like myself who's super into what people can do in the ring, I now am fully, he has my respect now. You know what I mean? I respect him. If he were to win a title, I wouldn't be too mad about it because he could go. So that was my favorite match. Like you said, I mean, the Brian Cage surprise. You actually called it. I was going for Jeff Cobb, and you called Brian Cage. So that was really
I've been reading about Brian Cage for a minute. I was doing a little bit of research ahead of time, and everybody was saying like, "Yo, he's basically all but signed with AEW, so it's the perfect time for him to show up." And so
that's true, man. And I think that Cage is dope, man. He's a good big guy. I had obviously I got into him when he was on Lucha Underground. We've talked about Lucha Underground before. Super awesome wrestling show. If you guys have never seen it, check it out. But yeah, so I got my first Cage. I got introduced into him on Lucha Underground, and he's dope, man. So I'm excited to see him in AEW. Like you said, Brody Lee and Moxley was good too. You guys know I'm not the biggest Moxley fan, but I loved this match because I'm a huge Brody Lee / Luke Harper fan, and I was very, very glad to see him have a big match for the first time in forever because he's so good. He's so good, and I absolutely love the finish, man. I love the fact that Moxley had to basically kill him to defeat him, right? Because when he hit the paradigm shift on him, and my man kicked out at 1. That was wild.
Yeah, he hit like two or three of them.
Yeah, and then he had to choke him out. So I loved that, man. I thought that was fantastic, and it made Moxley look like a goon. So I'm here for it, man. It was dope. And then Hikaru Shida won the title.
Yeah, that was good.
Goodness for that. I'm so glad she got that belt now because I think that her and Chris Statlander are the two best women in AEW, and I'm glad that at least one of them finally has the title. So that's dope. And then, man, like you said, that main event was just so fun. It was just fun. It was well done. It was hilarious. My favorite part was the Hangman Adam Page, kind of like the bar saloon fight. I love that. I love how he sat down at the bar and Jake Hager. They had the little cowboy Wild West moment. My man got ran across the bar table.
Sorry,
you good.
My bad.
My man got ran across the bar table. Yeah, it was hilarious. He hit the backflip off the table. That was dope. And then Sammy, like we just said, he's the bump master. My man takes the one-winged angel straight to death.
Bro, to hell. off the stadium, basically.
Oh, my goodness. It was hilarious. And then, obviously, man, Chris Jericho hitting the backspin elbow on the mascot. I thought that was hilarious. But, yeah, man, I love the show. Super enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what AEW has coming up, man. So that was dope. So yeah, we've been doing. We started last episode. Remember, we started our 10-day anime challenge. We are now on day 2. Remember, last week we just kind of ran through our top 5 favorite anime again for day 1. Day 2 of the 10-day anime challenge. Who is your favorite main character ever in anime history? Favorite main anime protagonist of all time.
So main character. So there's a
Don't you dare! Don't you dare! We're not doing the. We're not doing this
controversy.
We're not doing the dual protagonist samurai champion.
Right. I'm gonna avoid the controversy. Normally, I would make a stink about Jin versus Mugen. I'm gonna bypass that. I got a lot of love for Yukihiro Soma from Food Wars. So,
yeah,
but
great character.
If I had to pick a number 1, I gotta go with the OG, the original, the spiritual grandfather or grandson of, or great grandson of Mugen. I gotta go with Spike Spiegel from.
Hey, I love it. Yep. I love it. That's such a good pick, man. Spike. I mean, man, Cowboy Bebop is such a great show. I love that episode where he goes to, and it's always dope when they like highlight Spike's martial arts, man. I love the episode. Man. I love the episode where he goes to those guys that kind of have like a pawn shop, and he picks up the nunchucks, and he's like, "Yo, these are from Enter the Dragon." That was really
Enter the Dragon model. Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, that's super dope. I love Spike, man. Spike would probably be my second favorite main character. I think if I had to pick one, my favorite main anime character of all time is probably Hitokishi Butosai. It gotta be Kenshin Himura, man.
He would probably be my number 2.
The main slayer. I love Kenshin, man. Oh man, I love his character, man. He's a beast, and he's so small and unsuspected. You know what I mean? Just a really dope character. One of my favorite shows of all time, and he had some really good, man, for such a old show before like the shonen arc. The shonen style was like super drug out, you know what I mean? He had really good character development, man, in such a short time. So I love it. My favorite anime main character ever gotta be Kenshin, man. Man Slayer. Butosai. But we talked before about how quarantine and COVID-19 is kind of has such a hit on just like the cultural aspect of being a nerd in the summertime. You know what I mean? Like, this is a time where we're usually enjoying cons and going to Comic-Con and cosplaying and things like that.
That's trash, man.
Bro, it sucks. And even just the movies, right? We would have all seen Black Widow by now. We would have been talking about it. It would have been our summer movie. So, we don't have our movies. And then on top of that, right, one thing I always look forward to every year is taking my son to Free Comic Book Day, man. You know what I mean? And now Comic Book Day has kind of been canceled. You know what I mean? And they can't do it because you can't go in the stores. So, in the spirit of that, I just wanted to kind of focus on some cool comic book stuff today. You know what I mean? For all my con goers and everybody.
All my sweaty's gonna get a little sweaty.
All my sweaties out there that collect things, and you can't. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that right now because of the quarantine thing. So, staying on comic books, man. I mean, like, I guess let's kind of. What made you? How did you get into comic books?
Man, I actually don't know. I remember 2 things that happened. One, there were comics at my house somehow, and I think yes, right. Like, how sometimes you just have stuff like when you're a kid, people buy you shit.
Absolutely, and you don't know where it came from.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. There were comics in my house. I remember I had a Wolverine comic. I had that one. with him like doing this with the that classic with the cigar.
Yo, that cover is probably.
I don't know if it was the original because I think that comic came out.
The second person. It came out in like the 80s, late 80s, I think.
But I did have that one at the crib. I remember having one of the X-Men joints where they were talking about, because I remember asking my mom to help me like
read.
Well, it was one particular word for whatever reason. So it was one of the Senator Kelly arcs. It's a random ass story. It was one of the Senator Kelly arcs where he was on some, trying to politicize the villainization of mutants. And one of the comic panels, one of the speech bubbles had the word idiot in it. And for whatever reason, as like a 6-year-old, I didn't know that word.
Right.
And I was like, hey, Mom, what is this? Can you help me say this word? And she was like, oh, yeah, that's my favorite word. Idiot. That helped. I mean, that was the foundation. I had them there. I had the access to them. And then I remember at a summer camp that I was at when I was really young, there was like one of the, he may have been like 1 or 2 years older, but at the time, when you're 8 years old, that seems like they're like almost.
Right. Yeah, I remember being in elementary school and the fifth graders were like seniors in high school.
Yeah, they were like in like cars and mortgages and shit. So I remember him having a bunch of trading cards, not the comic books, but he had like the trading cards like Magneto, Colossus, Psylocke. He had a bunch of X-Men trading cards, and I was like, yo, what is this? Like, what's this world that you're into? Tell me about it. So he kind of put me on game a little bit, and this all kind of coalesced right around the same time that the X-Men cartoon was coming out.
Man,
so
we always praise that shit.
Man, this is the reason why, because it all happened like within the same like 2-year span where it all became clear. Like, holy crap! Like, this is comics. This is the world of comic books, and so that allowed me to then start to research more. Then I got access to the internet when I was in middle school, high school, and I really started researching heavy. I started reading comics online. Like I was never really a huge comic collector. Like I had some paperbacks, some tradebacks, but most of the comics that I consumed was all digital because it was just the easiest to access. And I read like arc after like almost all of Chris Claremont's X-Men.
Right. And let me say this real quick, right? Like sometimes, everybody's a gatekeeper, right? In nerd culture, right? So one thing that I kind of differently, like, a lot of people, they kind of look down on people who consume things digitally, right? Because they're like, oh, you're not a real fan, you're not collecting the books. But I mean, as someone who is a collector, I have thousands of comics, right? I like to do that, but I also don't look at people who read it. I actually look at people who read it digitally as possibly maybe even more a fan, because you're actually doing it for the reading, not just for the collecting. There are people who collect these books that don't even read them. You know what I mean? Like
they just want the collection. Yeah, I don't really care that much about that.
Right. So people who read it digitally, I have another level of respect.
I just wanted to get the stories, bro. Like I was just interested in the stories, and I just wanted to know what happened next. And this was before like e-comics. This was like in the early days of like LimeWire and Kazaa and like the bootleg internet where you would like download like zip files of like scans of the comics. That's how I used to read them. Another thing that I used to do was I used to go to Borders. I used to go to the bookstore and just sit for like hours and just read the entire comic, read the whole so not just the comic back, but the graphic novel where they put the entire arc into one big book. I would just sit there for like several hours and just read the whole thing in Borders and then leave and not buy shit.
Yo, that's dope.
And then to make the mission complete, once I got to high school and college, when the internet really opened up, they started having like Wikipedia pages and like dedicated like databases and like subscriptions to like Marvel Unlimited, that's when I was like, oh, so now I'm into comics. Like this is, and the floodgates were open at that point. But at the same time though, like I am pretty like I don't really all of the comics that I read from DC were, just to be honest, I don't really read a whole lot of DC comics. Most of that was just sort of taken in the world of DC. But the Marvel stuff that I read is very specific, like a lot of X-Men, mostly X-Men, some Fantastic Four, some Avengers, and a lot of Black Panther, obviously. So that's my specialty. That's the core, man.
So that's awesome. I think I may have told the story how I got into comics because years ago, a long time ago, I was a kid and me and my friend were helping his neighbor move, and his neighbor had a bunch of comic books in the attic, and he let us keep them. So we ended up, me and my friend, we split them up. I took half, he took half, and so my kind of break into comics was like G.I. Joe stuff, right? Remember I was telling you that I had a ton of old G.I. Joe comic books, and I thought they were amazing, and they had like some crazy G.I. Joe Transformers crossovers, right? Yeah. And those were really amazing. And then I kind of went from that to, going down to the comic book store with 5 books, seeing the X-Men stuff, same as you, matching up the cartoon, and one of the first series that I really was into and like reading super heavy was Deadpool. Like I just saw the way in X-Force, everything X-Men related in the 90s was amazing. So I just remember seeing Deadpool's look and, just kind of diving into his whole thing. And he became, one of my favorite characters at the time. So I got lucky, man. I kind of got broke into the game by getting just gifted a bunch of sweet books, man. You know what I mean? And then, like you said, I kind of collected some cards too. Me and my brother, we used to have a binder, and it was like little cards. You know what I'm saying? Superhero cards, and they were really dope. So with that said, man, who's your favorite writer ever? When it comes to comic books?
It would have to come down to either Chris Claremont with his X-Men run, just because that's just the foundation of my comic. But legally, and probably my answer is going to be Jonathan Hickman. His shit, bro. You want to talk about sweaty?
He's a legend.
Yeah, Jonathan Hickman is. Jeff Johns is dope too with some of the stuff he's done with DC, but Jonathan Hickman is my guy in terms of just really, really. Like I'm here for like the twist, the plot twist, and like the what the fuck moments. Like I'm really here. He is the king of like just like conspiracies and hidden messages and trying to figure out what's going on. But to me, that's my like lore building. That's my favorite type of like fiction to be involved in. And Jonathan Hickman is excellent at that. Most notably, probably my favorite work. His Fantastic Four was really dope. His the Secret Wars, man. Secret Wars 20. Oh, sorry. I'm pretty sure that was Jonathan Hickman, or at least he was involved in it.
Right.
And also his new X-Men shit, the Dawn of X, Powers of X. Fucking incredible. I actually haven't checked in on it in a couple of months. Ever since COVID hit, I don't even know what's still going on with it, but it was really, really dope.
That's dope, man. So for me, right, my favorite writer ever is got to be Rick Remender. And Rick Remender is so good. And like my favorite comic book series ever is Uncanny X-Force, and that came out in like 2010. What Rick Remender does, man, is he kind of takes these characters that have like these one-dimensional tropes about them, right? It's like a Deadpool, you know what I mean? Especially Deadpool. His earlier stuff, 90s, was amazing, right? But then kind of by the later mid 2000s, he became like this joke character, this guy who was just always trying to be funny, and he had kind of lost his edge a little bit. That made him, dope. And what Rick Remender does is he always takes these kinds of characters and he turns them into like super complete, well-rounded guys who could like have their own movies and all this stuff. And that's what he does really well. I mean, I just talked about Kenny X-Force, that one that he did amazing, that team with Deadpool, Wolverine, Phantom X, who is like a super dope Marvel character.
He's super dope. He's maybe the greatest superhero name of all time.
Right. He's super dope. And then they had Archangel, Psylocke. Like the team for that Uncanny X-Force run was just so amazing. And then obviously he did the Agent Venom, you know what I mean? The Flash Thompson Venom, he did that. Again, taking a character who kind of was, you know what I mean, one-dimensional, kind of like Venom was, and he turned him into this whole new thing, man. So Rick Remender is my favorite writer. The guy is amazing, and if you guys have never checked out any of his stuff, you got to check some of his work out, man. Uncanny X-Force, the Venom run, he did a Captain America run that was very good. He did Uncanny Avengers. He does a lot of darker stories that have like super woke themes at play. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm a big fan of him. So yeah, man. I already know your answer to this one. we talked about our writers. Like, what's your favorite comic book team? Like, if we're talking about a superhero team, there's so many out there. What's your favorite?
Well, all right. So just to make this a more interesting answer, obviously we all know it's X-Men, but I'll give you my second team. Let me think about that for a second. I would say my second favorite team is probably I want to say X-Force. Okay, no, I got it. I'm gonna go with Excalibur. I like Excalibur a lot.
Word. That's a good team.
But damn, there's so many, because I like the Fantastic Four with Storm and Black Panther. That was a good one. What else? Let's see. There was the original Defenders, not the ones on Netflix, but the ones that had, like, I think it was Thor,
Doctor Strange.
That's the most perfect team, bro. I think it was Thor.
No, that team, Silver Surfer was on that team.
Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, like, that's like the most powerful group ever of all time.
Super broke, just a super broken team.
Yeah,
man.
And then it was relegated down to Luke Cage and fucking Jessica Jones and the version of Iron Fist.
The absolute worst version of Iron Fist ever. Never has there ever been a whacker version of Iron Fist. Man, that was just really bad. I don't want to think about it. And what made that Iron Fist show even worse was that it was on simultaneously with Into the Badlands. So people are constantly watching Into the Badlands and being like, dog, why aren't the fights on Iron Fist like this? You know what I mean? So that was just all around bad. That was a bad look for him. But yeah, man, that's kind of a hard question. I think if I had to go with, I would probably go with I'm gonna go with the original X-Force lineup, right? So you had Cable, who I thought Cable was super dope. You had Cable, you had Domino, you had Shatterstar, man. You had like Warpath and Cannonball. You had all these super weird.
Man, shout out to Cannonball. He's such an interesting character because you find out later that he's an external and not exactly a mutant, which is pretty dope.
Pretty dope, man. Right? So I would have to say that, and then obviously that Uncanny X-Force team I was just talking about earlier. Two of my favorite comic book teams ever. So to keep it moving, what's your favorite comic book run ever in history?
I mean, again, bro, I gotta go with Jonathan. I gotta go with Okay, so the answer is Chris Claremont's X-Men, but that's it was like it was such a long run, you know what I'm saying? So I will go with I like Tanahashi Coates' Black Panther. Obviously, I didn't like the fact that he broke up him and Storm. I didn't think that was necessary, but you know, I understood his point. It was very similar to the rationale. I don't know how much. I mean, I know you're not a huge DC guy, but you were aware that Batman was about to marry Catwoman, right? Did you know about that? And basically, Catwoman played him at the altar and was like, "Yo, the reason why I can't do this is because I don't." And it sounds horrible, but she's actually right. Like, if I do this, it's going to make you happy. And in order for you to stay Batman and the hero that the city needs, we need you to be like depressed and like in a shitty headspace. So doing this is going to effectively end Batman, and the city needs you more than we need this. And I'm like, bro, that's super trash. But like, I guess
it's deep. It was hilarious when you sent me a text and you asked me why I don't like Batman.
Because on paper, he fits the bill. I mean, he doesn't have any powers. He's literally a martial arts master and a ninja that just punches people to death.
Right. So here's the answer, right, everybody? I get asked that a lot. Like, why aren't you a bigger Batman fan? He fits all of your interests. He's a masked vigilante bat ninja who knows a crap ton of martial arts, and why aren't you a huge Batman? And my answer is, first of all, Batman, and I told you when I was a kid I loved Batman, but it's mixture between, it's the One Punch Man thing, right? He's got that fan base that's kind of like, oh, well, if he has prep time, he's going to win. He wins against everybody, right? I can't stand people who are constantly defending Batman. It's just like that One Punch Man effect. and then my other reason, right? But when I became a overstanding gent, you know what I mean? Yo, if you are listening on Spotify, you guys have to go on YouTube right now where the time is on the episode. You got to see Hero's background. He's got the overstanding Kofi hat on with the beaming red Cyclops eyes. So this is me putting my overstanding hat on. Look, man, Batman is white as they come, and that's his superpower, man. And that's just like, the older I got, the more I realized, like, yo, this guy is just rich, and he's white. Like, he shows. I fully stand behind the reason that Batman shows half his face when he's opposing the law and being a vigilante is because the cops see his face and I'm like, oh, he's white, man. It's all good.
Hey, imagine me, goddamn. I'm Batman. He's a fucking killer.
Shoot him! Hey, Batman! You can't be black man, more like it. Hey! Vince McMahon being Chief Commissioner Order. Chief Commissioner Vince McMahon. Put a bullet in him.
We're gonna put a bullet in here.
Word. So, but yeah, man. Just like when I got older, I just kind of like, and I kind of had a similar, thing with Tony Stark. Just like these guys whose superpower is literally their limitless fountain of wealth, and that just
got bread.
Yeah, so that kind of drove me away from Batman a little bit. But yeah, bro, with all those things said, we talked about a lot of comic book stuff. So right now we're gonna get into everybody's favorite show. We're gonna get into our top 5 today. We've done our top 5 favorite Marvel characters before, but this time we're going to go with your top 5 favorite comic book characters ever. So this is it could this is a hero villain in a universe, just somebody, characters out of the pages of comic books that are your absolute favorites. Who you got?
All right. Who do I have? Let's bring up I am going to make a executive decision right now for number 5. Number 5, I still had not quite narrowed down.
Executive decision. This is,
okay. I've done it. I'm going to start my list at number 5.
okay.
I'm going to start with Storm, Aurora Monroe. She wasn't in my top 5 initially, I don't think, but I've been thinking about her. The fact that they gave her Omega level status, finally, shout out to Jonathan Hickman. It's been hinted at for literally like 20 years when they first introduced the idea of Omega level, just to kind of let's just get this
to get a little Dragon Ball power here.
Yeah. Y'all all right over there? They're cutting down trees over there.
Hey, so somebody just literally rode past me on like a motorcycle.
Word. So yeah, man. Just to kind of give you a quick background, Omega level mutant basically means so there are very powerful mutants out there, right? Like Charles Xavier. He would be considered an alpha. Depending on who you ask, you consider him an alpha level mutant, meaning that he's extremely powerful, and he also has so much skill with his power that he has maxed out the use of his power, right? Professor X is a great example of that. I was gonna say Magneto, but more on him to come. And basically any other big, strong, powerful mutant. Then you've got Omega level mutants who are not only powerful, and sometimes they don't always activate how powerful they are, but it's the fact that the limit to their power, or the upper limit to their power, is not defined. Meaning that they have control and potential to be so Professor X, as powerful as he is, there's a cap to what he can do on paper, and he basically has reached that potential, and he's pretty much unstoppable. But if you were to go with somebody like Quentin Quag or Quentin Quire, for example, well, that's not a good example. Let me go with who's another Omega level telepath. We'll go with Jean Grey just because it's easy. Jean Grey, technically, on paper, has the ability to.
Franklin Richards.
Well, Franklin, that's a whole nother level. But on paper, we'll go with Jean Grey, who is a telepath and a telekinetic, and has the ability on paper, she can surpass Charles Xavier with enough training, with enough realization of her powers. There's no limit to what she can't do. There's no limit to how far she can grow. And there's been about 10 or 12 confirmed Omega levels. I don't know every single one of them, but I know Iceman, Mr. Hope Summers, Vulcan, Gabriel Summers, who's Cyclops and them's brother, Elixir, Darwin, a couple other people, and then there's Bobby Drake, Iceman. I think I said him already. And
Darwin dying is most ridiculous death ever.
There's no way he would have died from that. That's just that completely. Anyways, not even get into that. But most recently, Jonathan Hickman has confirmed that Storm, who, because of how we've seen feats of power from her that are, she's literally a weapon.
She's Avatar.
Right, she is. She's aimed, when she didn't have to train for it. She just naturally mastered all the elements. She is the queen, the goddess of the elements. But she never got any love. She was never confirmed as an Omega level until Jonathan Hickman finally said, yo, she's clearly an Omega level mutant. Y'all are tripping. She absolutely is confirmed. And also Magneto, who I did not know. I would always have considered him to be an alpha level mutant just because. And again, some people have that debate between him versus Static Shock, and I love Static. That's one of my favorite. That's an honorable mention. Static Shock, number 6. We'll go with that. But I think that he and Magneto have the same power, control over the electromagnetic spectrum. But Magneto he OG, man. He's done it for so long. He knows how to do all that shit and more. But He just doesn't have to do it all the time. So I think that if it came down to it, Magneto would edge him out. But what would likely happen is that Magneto would make that brother overstand. God damn it. You got to fight for your right to be an electromagnetic user. God damn it.
Let's go. You don't be oppressed by the non-mutants. Okay? You belong on this earth just like they do. Come fight for me, young brother.
And you a young black brother too, so
Magneto X.
Right, let's go, dog. Magneto X. So, anyways, all that said, I'm gonna go with Storm at number 5 because she, her power has finally been validated. She is just one of the great characters of all time. So my battery is dying. I'm gonna move inside real quick, but
literally.
Then number 4, while walk and talk. Number 4, I'm gonna go with the Flash.
Oh, I like it. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Flash.
the Flash
Okay.
is
Very
really,
good.
really powerful. I think cats be sleeping on how powerful he actually is.
Word.
Hold on a second. And specifically, I'm gonna go with Wally West. And
I
not
was just about to ask you which one.
which Flash. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Wally West, man.
Okay.
Wally West is the Kid Flash. I think he's the first Kid Flash, the third Flash altogether. Boom. Seamless, bro. Let's go.
Back. Okay. Back.
So yeah, we're gonna go with Wally West number 2. Or number what? Fuck. Number 3. The first Kid Flash, third Flash altogether. The indisputably fastest Flash. I don't care about what you Hercules got to say. He is faster than Barry Allen. Barry Allen said it himself. And also, the new 52 version of Wally West is black. So you already know that nigga fast. You already know his fast twitch muscle is and he's one with the Speed Force. And that's another reason I like the Flash, because everybody else, just to get into some sweaty DC shit for a second, the power that makes everybody have speed powers in DC is the Speed Force. And if you have speed powers, you tap into the Speed Force. Some people have really, really strong connections to the Speed Force, like Barry Allen, who's the second Flash, the most famous Flash, probably. And he like mainlines into it, but Wally West straight up becomes the Speed Force. So it's not even that he mainlines into it; he like has access to all of it. He's been said to be so fast that he's outrun death. He's run to the end of the universe and back. He was faster than instant teleportation somehow. And apparently, most recently, this actually might have been Barry Allen, but most recently, everybody talks about like Superman versus the Flash in a race, who will win. And Superman has said some shit like, "Yo, I beat you before. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why you think, this is even, this like you just gonna blow me out, just gonna dust me like that." And then the Flash jokingly says, "Bro, that shit was for a charity, dog. You thought I was for real? Like I'm the Flash." And so once he said that, he just like hit another gear and just dusted Superman. Like it wasn't even close.
Word.
So yeah, any opportunity to make Superman look like a fool, I'm here for it. So I'm gonna go with Wally West at number 4. Number 3, where we at? We're gonna go with the Wolverine.
Hey, let's go.
We've talked about him for
Shink.
Right, nice. So yeah,
Let's go,
we'll talk
bro.
about him for let's go, bro.
Berserker Barrage.
Chicken Garage.
Chicken Garage. Drill Claw. Tornado Claw. Man,
I mean, a 5'3", 500 pounds because he's made out of antimantium. Wrecking ball of fucking blades and
Wolverine is built like Rob Van Dam.
Yeah,
right. Just like a short, but just
stocky. You know what I'm stocky and athletic.
Freaky athletic.
It got hands. It got 100 years of martial arts training. Not just martial arts, like
lifetime
skills, like fucking military training strategy.
Bro.
You know, he is crazy. Okay, so check it out. Just to get more to here, I'm gonna borrow a phrase that's about to piss novelists off. Just to get back into my sweaty bag. God damn it, to my comic book bag. He doesn't like that phrase.
Oh, don't say that. Why did you just say that? All right. Don't say the bag. Don't say the bag phrase, man.
Just gotta get back into my.
I have a pet peeve. I have a pet peeve to get off my chest for y'all. I am not a fan of the saying "in my bag." Like when people are like, "Y'all done messed up and let me get in my bag." I'm in my bag now. What? No, I don't like that. What's that even?
I don't know what I mean. Just kind of corny. It is about it.
Y'all done let me get in my bag.
All right.
Why weren't you in your bag already? Why don't you reside in the bag? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why aren't you always in the bag?
Right. Dog. I am the bag, bro. You know what I'm saying? There is no bag.
Be the bag. Don't just get in your bag. Be one with the bag.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So just to kind of get back into some real sweaty shit for a second. This is how dangerous Wolverine is. So there is a Shield comic from the 90s, or a comic that references Shield, that has like a threat level list.
Right.
In terms of like who does Shield need to be keeping their eyes on? And I don't know the full top 10. I think either Magneto or the Hulk was number 1 for obvious reasons. Sneakily, Storm was like number 2 or number 3 because you're right.
Exactly. Wait, she can do what? Right. Well, she's just a girl, so it doesn't matter. What? She's black,
and she can control the entire weather system.
Put her on the list. She should be number 1.
You just made the list. Right. Shout out to Chris Jericho.
Yo, who is on Vince McMahon's list of just powerful black people?
Powerful black. Oh yeah, most
Storm.
Yeah, that's right. And so the punchline here is that right below her and in like the top 5 was Wolverine, because they're like, this fool, even though there's more powerful mutants, there are people who have more powerful abilities than him. First of all, he can't be killed. I mean, he's practically invincible. He knows like everything that there is to know about war and battle and fighting and guns and everything. Right. Like he's had several lifetimes worth of combat knowledge.
Bruh.
His fucking bones are made out of unbreakable. He's got claws. He's got 6 swords coming out of his hands.
Indestructible claws.
Right. So yeah, Wolverine is not to be fucked with. He's the best at what he does, and what he does ain't so pretty. God damn it.
The best at it. I'm the best at what I do.
Yep. And also, I'm just remembering another honorable mention that I should have said would have been Gambit. Big fan of Gambit.
Remy LeBeau.
Yes, sir. Then to get into the top 2 here, these are not going to be a surprise. Black Panther number 2. Genius, martial artist, super powered king,
rich, black,
right? African. You feel me?
Let's go.
I've said enough about Black Panther. And then number 1, again, not a surprise. Got to go with the Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd. Always been my favorite comic book character ever. I actually have not gotten a chance to really dig into like the really wild, like Jack Kirby 60s run of Silver Surfer, where that motherfucker was just out to get into some space adventures. But the more low-key, chilled out 90s version of Silver Surfer, contemplating, bro. Entire panels, bro. In the 80s and 90s, entire panels of him just like thinking.
What is life?
What? No, not even, bro. Not even what is life. What is ... Period. And that ain't just be thinking, dog, trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
What is
right? But I just, I mean, to be perfectly honest, the thing that got me with Silver Surfer, you know, the nostalgic, I just loved his design. Like he is literally a Silver Surfer, and that's awesome.
Quite literally a Silver Surfer.
Yeah, that's all. He is a silver guy who surfs and who is almost as powerful as and who's got, you know, part of the power of Galactus, and just the super strong power of
power cosmic.
Power cosmic, man. So that'll do it for what we got. What did I say was number 5 again? Yeah, Storm. I thought about it right at the last second. So Storm, The Flash, Wolverine, Black Panther, and Silver Surfer.
Yes. I like it, man. Fire list, very good. I'm going to get into my top 5 favorite comic book characters ever. So without further ado, let's go, man. Coming in at number 5, it's got to be, you know, he was on your list. He was on my list when we did our favorite Marvel comic book characters. I had to go with the King of Wakanda, man. That's T'Challa, the Black Panther. Look, man, we all know the facts. We know everything. But look, man, the fact of the matter is representation is so real, and it matters so much. The first time I ever saw a Black Panther comic book and saw that there was a black, not only a black superhero, but like a black leader, right? A dominating black superhero. Let's not forget this guy showed up and just bopped all the Avengers, right? Single-handedly, like easily, you know what I mean? And he's just so well respected in comics, and I love, he's one of the greatest fighters in comics, and every time he is portrayed in something, he's always done so well, like Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, you know, he was one of the best characters on that cartoon. So, like I said, man, just representation, and then proper representation. You know what I mean? He is one of the best comic book characters ever, and one of my all-time favorites. Coming in at number 5, gotta go for my man Black Panther. Coming in at number 4, man, this is where things start getting a little interesting already, right? Coming in at number 4, I'm going with my man Thomas Arashikage, aka Storm Shadow, the white ninja from G.I. Joe, man. Look, I love Storm Shadow, and we talked about our favorite villains, and I told you I've never really considered Storm Shadow to be a villain. Because he's really not, you know what I mean? He kind of suffers from the whole Bucky thing, you know what I'm saying? But look, man, Storm Shadow, first of all, just the coolest name ever, you know what I mean? Storm Shadow, the Cobra Ninja, but you know what I mean? A lot of people think of him as a villain, and that's not really what it is. I mean, the whole thing from the Snake Eyes, I mean, Storm Shadow is just, he's the Japanese guy, you know what I mean? They were friends in Vietnam, him and Snake Eyes, and then Storm Shadow goes to visit his family in Japan, and then he kind of realizes that they're like this secret, deadly ninja clan, you know what I mean? So then he joins, you know, he goes and joins his family, and then he gets in the clan, and then Snake Eyes actually loses his family to like a car crash or something like that, and then he ends up going there and training with him because their friends are in it. And then Snake Eyes kind of surpasses him. Some jealousy there, you know what I mean? And then there's an assassin who kills their master. And the whole thing is that Storm Shadow basically joined Cobra because he was attempting to find the guy who killed their master. You know what I mean? But the whole time, Snake Eyes thought that they both were under the impression that the other one was responsible for the master. You know what I'm saying? So their beef wasn't real. You know what I mean? So, and there's times where Storm Shadow gets his he kind of gets recalibrated his brain, and then they kind of rid off the Cobra brainwashing, and he ends up joining Joe's, man. So I've never viewed him as a bad guy, but awesome name, just amazing characters, crazy design. One of my favorite characters ever. So number 4, I'm going with Storm Shadow, man. Number 3, man. Let's go, man. Let's widen the comic book world. I gotta go with my favorite Ninja Turtle ever. I gotta go with Leonardo, man. Look, man, you want some true like violent, like martial arts master Ninja Turtle stuff. You gotta read those IDW comic books, man, with the Ninja Turtles. Leo is a master swordsman, bro. He is a samurai. He is the leader. He is the most adult of all the turtles. He's a true master, man. I love Leonardo. He's got so many good arcs in those comic books, man. And like I said, he's a true swordsman, man. Out of all the turtles, man. I love all of them, but Leo is just always been my favorite. And if you read the comic books, man, you really get a more serious vibe from all the characters, especially his, man. So number 3, I'm going Leonardo, man, from Ninja Turtles. Coming in at number 2, I gotta go with my guy, man, my favorite Marvel character ever, and that's Wade Wilson. That's Deadpool. I already told you when I first saw Deadpool, he's funny, yes, and it is hilarious, but some of the newer stuff I said before, they just go a little overboard with it, you know what I mean? I get kind of tired of him doing the thing where he like purposely mutilates himself to fight or something, right? Like this overusage of the healing factor. I can't stand that, because that's not how I remember him, you know, from back in the day. And I remember seeing him in the X-Force comic books, right? He's an assassin. He's always just a really, really good fighter, and he was just had this crazy look, like he's a red ninja, you know what I mean? Who just doesn't shut up. He's like the complete opposite of Snake Eyes, and I've always been drawn to him, and like I said, his older stuff, man, is so good. He's and I love the fact that Taskmaster, right, who's a super dope character, and his thing is he has like photographic reflexes. That's what they call it. And the one person that he cannot fight is Deadpool, because he's too unpredictable for him to fight. I've always loved that, and I've always loved that about the rivalry, man. So yeah, coming in at number 2, I'm going with Deadpool. And I gotta say, man, I love that first Deadpool movie so much. That was one thing where I was like super looking forward to my favorite character being in a movie, and I was so nervous, man, and they like nailed it. They did it so good. So shout out to Deadpool, man.
That was great.
But my number 1 favorite comic book character ever, man, though, this might be my favorite just character period ever, and that's my guy Snake Eyes, man, from G.I. Joe, the OG multiverse ninja. And you got so many ninjas, and Snake Eyes is the one. He's got the sweetest look, in my opinion, with the visor. You know, sometimes it's silver, sometimes it's green, sometimes it's black. He just has the crazy look, the action figures, man, that I absolutely was obsessed with growing up when I was a kid, and just man, Snake Eyes is just that's a bad dude right there, bro. Like I love the fact he doesn't talk, you know what I mean? And there's been so many different versions of the story. The one I've always known is that something blew up in his face and then like destroyed his vocal cords and stuff, and that's why he don't talk. But and then there's something blew up in his face and it like destroyed his face and he couldn't talk. And then there's other ones where he took an oath of silence because his master got killed.
Oath of silence.
Yeah, they change it up so much. But look, man, just I'm always a huge fan of characters who aren't technically superhuman, but are constantly pulling off superhuman feats, and that is what him and Storm Shadow do all the time. And
slicing bullets in half,
bro. And
like
this is,
AK-47s.
and this is like goes back to the Batman thing, like right. Like I remember getting into an argument like a couple years ago on the internet with some guy who they were talking about name a person with no superpowers that could beat Batman, and I said Snake Eyes, and then me and this guy sitting there arguing, and I'm sitting here just like, look, I don't care. And the main thing people always say, well, Batman knows 100 martial arts style, and I can't stand that, bro, because let me just say this. It doesn't matter how many styles you know, because the more things you know, the less things you're giving yourself to master, because you're knowing so many things, right? But other than that, like, bro, like I just said, Snake Eyes is constantly exhibiting like superhuman feats, right? I've seen this guy lift up a tank because somebody was under it, right? I've seen this guy like you just said, these fools be slicing bullets from automatic weapons in half all the time. You know what I mean? Super fast, like just and just stuff like that. So, like I said, I'm always a fan of the characters that are always exhibiting superhuman feats that aren't said to be superhuman. And bro, he's got some silent comic books that are just they're so good. There's no words. It's just him being stealthy and just killing Cobra people. You know what I mean? So big shout out to Snake Eyes, man. My favorite comic book character of all time. So that's number 5, Black Panther. Number 4, Storm Shadow. Number 3, Leonardo. Number 2, Deadpool. Number 1, Snake Eyes, man. That's our top 5 today. Real quick, man. Before we bounce, I do want to keep our music. I do want to keep our music section alive, right? So I have a good music question for you today. Give me one artist who you are just absolutely, you love them, but they died before you were born.
Man, so many, bro. The first one that came to mind was Bob Marley.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you already know, man. I love Bob, man. Bob is my guy.
And my Mount Rushmore of like important people, just people that like inspire me. It's only 3 people. It's Bob, Bruce, and Muhammad Ali. Those 3.
I love it, man. It's so good.
Bruce as in Bruce Lee, if you didn't know.
And we share too. We definitely share. We share Bob and Bruce 100%.
Yeah.
That's such a good one, man. So
yeah, real quick, let me show you. Let me tell you just a quick story. How I got introduced to Bob Marley is I was watching. It was like 1995 or 6 or something, and I just so happened to be I came downstairs to ask my parents something, and they happened to be watching this TNT special. There was a Bob Marley tribute. You can still find it on YouTube. I think it might have been like 97 or something. You can still find it on YouTube, and it had like Erykah Badu was on there, like singing like updated versions of Bob Marley songs. They had Bone Thugs and Harmony randomly was on there. A whole bunch of folks. And I was like, yo, what is? And I was just like entranced. Like I just like was in a trance on TV. And my dad put me on Bob Marley. I got the Legend CD. That was the first Bob Marley CD that I had. It was basically like a best of. But still, like, that was the thing that opened the floodgates. And then from there, I just started downloading all of this shit, buying all this music. And so been a fan ever since.
I like it, man. That's really dope. So obviously I love Bob, man. I'm a huge Bob Marley fan. So Bob definitely would have been one of mine, but I'm gonna. So I want to give a different answer. So for me, it's kind of difficult, right? Because you're talking about an artist who died before you were born, right? So I'm gonna go with Sam Cooke. I love Sam Cooke, bro. Like I absolutely love Sam Cooke, and I remember the very first time I ever heard a Sam Cooke song was super back in the day, little kid. And you remember the Blues Brothers movie, right? And that was kind of a movie that like our parents watched and our aunts and uncles watched it all the time. And he had a song in that movie called Clouds Going Crazy over there. He had a song called Soothe Me on there, and I just loved it, right? So I kind of always just kind of grew up with an appreciation for Sam Cooke's music. The dude was amazing. Like, you can listen to his music now, and this is a guy who's making music in like the 50s and 60s, man, and it translates, it still sounds really good. I listen to his music all the time. And then so one thing I used to do before I quit my job, fortunately to focus on music full time, I was a chef, right? And I used to cook. And one thing I used to do was I used to chef at this nursing home, and I would do this omelet bar for these kind of the older patients. And I would go to their little area and I would just cook for them all morning, right? And I would always play music. And they're old, obviously. so I would always just be in there just vibing to like old, 50s and 60s music. And I would always just play Sam Cooke for them, and they loved it. And it kind of helps them. It helps them remember things. You know what I mean? So So I've always grown up with a really big love and appreciation for Sam Cooke's music. So mine would be Sam Cooke, man.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
That's a great question. I'm interested in these music questions as they continue to come, because we could just as easily do a whole podcast about shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Obviously, man. We're both huge music heads, and look, man, you guys make sure you follow us on Instagram, man, at the SwordCast Pod. Comment, man. Like I say all the time, we're always posting our stuff, man. If you guys got any music questions you want to ask us, if you have any things that you want us to talk about on the podcast, man, go ahead and ask, man. Shout out to all of our listeners, man, and our followers, and our SwordCast Hall of Fame, our Perry Hall SwordCast Hall of Fame members.
Let's
man,
go.
We love y'all. Thank y'all, man, and thank you for listening. And we catch y'all next week on episode 39. And then remember, man, if you're listening on Spotify, check out my YouTube channel, man. We got the little video joints on there with that. So thank y'all for listening, man. We love y'all. Peace.
My word is my sword, Hokage and Batosai, pulling the blades out of the forge, yo. Prior to my knowledge of the Force, was sticking Jedi, but through obtaining holocrons from both sides, I'm under gray skies. Everything that glitter ain't kyber crystal, my mind to lift you. In this time we shine together, disarm your pistol, yo. Welcome to the SwordCast, my wordplay, my sword play when blades clash. Welcome to the SwordCast, my wordplay, my sword play when blades clash. Welcome to the SwordCast, my wordplay, my sword play when blades clash.